All right, Cage Titans 54 goes down on July the 2nd at the Plymouth Memorial Hall. And of course, right now I have the owner of Cage Titans, Michael Polvere, on the show to help preview this exciting fight night card. Michael, how you doing?
Doing great, man. It's a week out from fight night, so just the normal crazy stuff that goes on. Um, you know, but hey, overall, we're doing all right.
Yeah, have you had any hiccups as far as this particular event? I know originally Dewan Owens was supposed to fight Peter Barrett, and now you have Jacob Bond stepping up on relative short notice. Is there anything else that you can tell us about?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. And it's just like I swear it's the post the curse. We've done 54 events, and I used to always just put I never would put the fighters on the poster. I would always just put a picture and as a placeholder. And recently, I've been kind of leaning more towards putting fighters on. And every time I do, something happens with the fights. But yeah, Jacob Bone, I'm kind of actually a little bit more excited for that fight. Because he just lost in the title fight to Joe Gianetti, and Joe missed weight in that fight, and there was talks that there would be an immediate rematch on weight no matter what. And Bone, after that fight, got a little injured, so he was on the shelf for a bit, so we couldn't reschedule that immediate title fight. And then I told him I was putting him in another Gianetti in another fight, and they gave the blessing. He was scheduled for CES. His fight on CES fell through the same time Dewan Owens pulled out, and it was a perfect marriage. So that was good. You mentioned hiccups. In a positive hiccup, I guess, we just added Erin Warbaby Johnson taking on Annabella Kelly. That's a fight I put together 2 days ago. We were looking for somebody for Erin Johnson, and women fight are very difficult because the pool's not that deep. And oddly enough, Annabella Kelly from Syndicate out in Las Vegas, she answered the call. We were talking, going back and forth, and I hit her up. She finally agrees, and she's like, "Sorry for the delay. I was just trying to figure out my coaching." Former Cage Titans bantamweight champion Jay Perrin's my coach, and he just said he could corner me. So Jay Perrin's going to be flying back home and cornering Annabella Kelly, taking on Erin Johnson, which obviously the connection on Erin's side is her head coach is Connor Matthews, who's fighting on Dana White's Contender Series. And I love this because it's the full circle. I had two Cage Titans fighters who've gone on to the UFC now, and now they're coming full circle. Now they have their own students that they're going to be cornering. So it's pretty fun. I'm excited for that. It's a positive pickup.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. How difficult is it when you need to bring someone in from the other side of the country? I mean, in a perfect world, everyone that's local is fighting on the card and just makes it easier on you. But I mean, as we all know, you're going to have to get some other fighters from other parts of the country in these events from time to time, right? So how difficult is that for you as an owner to make those fights actually happen?
I mean, it's so funny. In the early days, we were exclusively God, hometown guy versus hometown guy, and it was all local. Now a lot of the card, last show, my the hotel bill is the most expensive, is the hardest pill to swallow when I bring guys in, but it's just kind of common practice now. We got a guy coming in, Spencer Higa, for this card. He's fought for us before. He's from Hawaii. Last show we had a first, Bryce Pichot came in from Europe. He's from France. So yeah, it's just one other one other wrinkle that we got to kind of go through. But it's just kind of common practice now for us that we accept it. It's coordinating the rides, things like that. It's just part of the game at this point because we bring in fighters from out of state so often. It's just kind of common practice now, but it is a little difficult. Bryce was the hardest because not only did he come in from Europe, coming in from France, but he barely spoke English. So, now we're trying to coordinate his rides and pick him up at the airport. One time I literally picked him up at the hotel and I drove him about 30 seconds down the road because there was no way to explain, just go out and take a right and it's right there where you try to go. So I had to go there and pick him up and drive him 30 seconds down the road. So that was probably the most difficult, but overall it's just par for the course at this point in the game.
So as I said earlier, this is your 54th event. Man, you guys have been around for quite a while now. 2010, I believe, is when you originated. What is it about your promotion here that just makes you so successful?
Man, it's the fighters, the fans, you know, everybody that's involved in Cage Titans. It's the deep rooted passion for the sport. Um, when we started this back in 2010, it was simply because, um, what do they say? Build a better wheel. That's like a phrase that people back in there, like I fought for guys and they just did a shitty job promoting the fighters, being honest with matches, paying guys, as odd as that sounds. It was just like things that are common practice at Cage Titans. It still does not happen in the sport, which baffles me. And so when we started this, it was just like, how would I want to be treated? I want to know when I get a matchup proposed to me, I'm not going to find out that he forgot to mention that this guy was a national champion wrestler, that he was 102 in Golden Gloves or something like that. Like, um, just treat them honestly and give them opportunity to promote them, because it was a pet peeve back in the early days. It was like, here's tickets, go out and sell tickets. So in the early days of social media, people would just be like, buy tickets, please, 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 buy tickets, buy tickets. And it's like, how about you give them some promotional materials to help them go sell tickets so that they don't have to look like they're sorry for the bad word, but like whoring themselves out for ticket sales. It's like, here's a nice poster. You can post that and it's implied that you're fighting. Here's a little clip of your last fight that's implying that you're fighting without having to say buy tickets from the top of the rooftop. So that's the couple things that really I feel separate us, and making sure that we do everything we can for these fighters. They put so much hard work and effort into that one night. And it's simple things like going to weigh-ins and giving them their headshots. We have photographers that come in, take their headshots. We post them publicly, and they show up on other fight posters for different promotions. That's something that's common practice with us, but it's not elsewhere. Getting a video of your fight, getting photos of your fight without having to pay for those things as a fighter. Like, there's enough things that the fighters have to worry about. Like, let's make their lives a little bit easier. And then as for the fans, we're just accessible to them. We involve them as part of the show. We have a fan, Rob Pico, who came because his daughter's husband fought for us twice. And now he's a lifelong Cage Titans fan. And every show, he brews a special beer for 3 fighters that he selects off the cards. Another fan, super fan, Mikey De Silva, we gave him his own segment on our weekly show about the Mikey Hot Wing Hot Take Challenge. And he basically, picks who he thinks is going to win. And if he doesn't, if he picks against you and you lose and you win, your first beer on the night is on him, and he'll grab you right out of the crowd. So, it's just in involvement, the community. I say we are Cage Titans, and that's just not a marketing ploy tagline that we just made up to sound cool. It was like, we really feel like that. Whether you're selling hot dogs in the crowd, or you're there on fight night, you're equally as important as part of this show. Whether you're the hometown guy or the guy who got flown in and only have one person in your corner, everybody's equal. Everybody's a part of the show. And I think that's what separates us.
Man, I got to tell you, I cannot wait for this 54th event here again, July the 2nd. And of course, it's at the Plymouth Memorial Hall. Let's start right with this main event. Joe Gianetti taking on Nathan Williams. Joe Gianetti is one of those guys that I feel like he's just kind of gotten a raw deal. Like, I feel like he should have been in the UFC right from Tough, and for whatever reason that never really materialized. How do you feel like when you look at his career here moving forward, like what do you think is going to happen? If he gets this win here, is he getting closer to maybe getting that inevitable contract?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with Joe, he got into the Ultimate Fighter at a very young age. He was 21 years old, and he was 6-0, and the season that he was on was the undefeated season. But as you know from following the sport, like, you don't have a ton of super tough tests in your early part of your pro career. So there's a lot of guys who could be 3-0, 4-0, that just haven't had that test at the local level. But because the show was based on undefeated records, I'm not discrediting how he got on there, but that was the reality of the situation. So for a guy like Joe, I think he was very early in his career, and he was very young at the time. As I see him progress now, I think maturity, is showing through, and making weight consistently. That was another little hurdle he had to overcome. So I think he just has to continually on the path that he is of maturing as a fighter, but maturing as a human being as well, as a positive thing, and just continue the climb. Like, just keep fighting the guys put in front of you. Joe has all the right tools and the mentality. He's never a guy that says no to anybody. It's like, all right, cool, Joe, you want to fight this guy? Sure, I'm in. People are turning him down left and right, and it's super hard to get him fights. The other thing that he's done is he really kept that relationship with Dan Cormier and AKA guys that he had on the season of The Ultimate Fighter. So right now, though he's from Massachusetts, he drives a bus. He converted like an old mini short bus to his Skeletor van, and he drives cross country and does 3, 4, 5 weeks out in AKA and then drives home. So he's doing everything right, and he's still super early in his career. He's only mid-20s, so he's got a lifetime ahead of him in this sport. And he's doing everything right. So we wish him the best, and we'll see what happens on fight night. And if he picks up that win, maybe he gets a call for contender. Maybe it's another fight or two away. Time will tell. There's no secret formula. Sean Shelby told me this a long time ago in email. He goes, I don't care who your manager is. I don't care who you fight for. Just fight often, and finish guys. And that's the formula. Just keep fighting and staying active and winning and finishing if you can.
What kind of a fight do you expect this to be with Nathan Williams?
Man, Nathan Williams is tough. I mean, this guy came in and fought Don Shainis last July on our first card back from COVID, and he shocked everybody. Shainis was a guy, like, as we were just talking about Gianetti, if he gets a win, does he go to the UFC? It's like, that was the talk for Don Shainis. And Nate Williams came up and spoiled the show. And off of that, which was very humbling for us, he's an out-of-state guy, and he comes in and wins, and, he thinks everybody hates him and all that stuff. But we had a great relationship, and he was able to secure a PFL contract. And he thanks me to this day. He's like, if it wasn't for the publicity and the promotion that you put behind me, after I won and leading up to that fight, I don't think I would have got that contract. So he got that contract. And then once he was done with that contract, I told him all along, we stayed friendly. I said, whatever you want to come back and take a shot at that belt, the title fight is yours. So here we are.
Okay. And a follow-up question on Joe. If he gets this win and he does fight again for you next, are you ever entertaining the rematch between him and Josh Harvey? Is that something that you'd like to make?
Yeah, I mean, because you're a Maine guy, I guess I never thought I would talk about this again, but I have mixed emotions on that fight. I mean, obviously, I just say it straight out from the get-go. A lot of people question that decision. A lot of people were like, oh man, Joe got the hometown decision. Just to be clear, 2 of the 3 judges were from Maine. So though it was happening in Plymouth, Massachusetts, 2 of the 3 judges that night actually are from Maine. When I said that to Primo, he's like, what the hell does that matter? You think everybody from Maine knows? And it's like, well, I was just trying to make the point that the hometown judging, it's not like there was 3 judges from Joe's hometown of Rockland, Mass. So that, with that out of the way, I would absolutely entertain the rematch. Obviously, Harvey's had some trouble making weight at 45, so it seems like he's gonna kind of find a home at 55. They were so pissed at me that night. They were like, "We're never coming back down here, F these hometown decisions and this." But I would entertain it in a heartbeat. I would love to put that fight together. Maybe since time has passed, and some of the animosity, that original animosity, they thought it was like a hometown guy. So I love the fight. I would do it in a heartbeat. It would really just come down to, has time mellowed out Harvey's and Primo's stance on, like, this was a travesty that maybe Cage Titans had some part of, or the hometown guy had some part of.
Well, sign me up for that rematch. I'd love to see it. I know a lot of other fans in New England would love to see it as well. Let's move to Peter Barrett and Jacob. Now, is it Bond or Bone? Because I thought it was Bone. It is Bone.
Yes, I thought it was Bond for the longest time. And then one day his manager, Lars, was actually like, actually, it's Bone. And I was like, why haven't you been correcting me? He's like, whatever. It is what it is. So it is Bone. Jacob Bone.
Good to know. All right. So I'm a huge fan of Slippery Peter Barrett. I think he's just a great guy outside of the cage. And then, inside of the cage, we know how tough he is, obviously making it to the UFC. So really intriguing fight here. And Jacob is one of those guys that I feel like doesn't get maybe the respect he deserves because he's always going in there and fighting really, really tough guys. I mean, I saw most recently up in here in Maine, he fought Ryan Sanders for God's sake. And that's one of the toughest guys in New England for my money. So as far as this matchup goes, Peter Barrett, Jacob Bone, I did it again. Is this a fight that you expect to play out on the feet, or do you think these guys are going to hit the mat and this is going to be a jiu-jitsu matchup?
Man, that's a tough call. So I will say this: when Bone fought Gianetti, it was fought exclusively on the feet. So it shows me that Bone is confident in his stand-up game. With a guy like Slippery Pete, though, that's his bread and butter. Like Slippery Pete is a striker through and through out of Sidyatong. He trains Lozons now, so he's working on his ground game and stuff. You'd have to argue that the edge decisively would go to Bone on the ground. So that might be where he wants to take it, but his fights show me that guy's just a gritty, tough guy that wants to stand there and trade. So, it's going to be very interesting on fight night to see how this one plays out. Watching Bone strike against Gianetti, it was great to see, and it was really fluid. Coming in as a black belt, I'm expecting him to try to get it to the ground, and he didn't. And a lot of his fights, he doesn't. So if he's expecting to stand with Slippery Pete, it's going to be a treat for the fans. I know that's where Pete will want to probably keep it. But either way, I think this is an amazing fight just because like Bone just fought for the title. And Slippery Pete, his goal is to try to get back to the UFC, but oddly enough, he's the second most the fighter with the most amount of Cage Titans fights behind Johnny Cupcakes. He's never held the Cage Titans title. So, maybe a win there, though UFC is in his goal site, maybe a showdown at 155 or 145 for him to kind of get a title around his waist for Cage Titans.
Could this potentially be fight of the night here?
Man, I will not say. I will say all the fights have potential to be fight of the night. I mean, you got Hillary Rose and Gabriella Golfin. Golfin was in a fight of the night / fight of the year candidate in her last fight against Kylie O'Hearn for us 2 events ago. Spencer Higa from Hawaii taking on DSAB. Zach DiSabatino is a finishing machine. I think he's only went to decision once. And Higa just loves to trade and strike. And he's told me, don't sleep on my ground. Like he fought for us about 3 or 4 years ago, and he got taken down by Frank Sforza, and he lost the fight via decision on the ground. He just basically got controlled. He goes, since you last saw me 4 or 5 years ago, I've been training exclusively on my wrestling and keeping feet on the standing. He stood the whole time with Peter Barrett. He had Peter Barrett. There's a viral clip of Peter Barrett getting just rocked and churning and running away from him. And it was so funny. Spencer can crack. And, DSAB is the guy that tries to get it to the ground. So, like, how's this fight going to go? Is DSAB going to get him to the ground and impose his will? Because that's where he likes to finish fights. Because if he doesn't, he's standing across from a very dangerous striker, and that has seemed to be in his 2 fights he lost. DSAB, he lost to Peter Barrett and Darius Estelle. It was the striking on the feet when he couldn't get the guy down. That was his holdup, and Higa presents that problem in this fight. So those 4, either one of those fights could be fight of the night. We got 3 amateur title fights. I mentioned Aaron Johnson and Annabella Kelly. That could be fight of the night. There's just so many. It's hard for me to pick one.
Real quick, to follow up on Zach, he's got a stellar record. Is this a guy that you expect to see in the big show one day?
Yeah, I've talked to his coach, Bill Mahoney, and I said, well, like, where are we at with Zach? Is this a guy that is looking to just kind of fight every once in a while on the local scene, and he's just kind of happy being a local level fighter, which some guys are? Or is his goal to try to get to the Contender Series, the UFC? With a 9-2 record, we kind of have to know what's up. Like, if we're going to promote him as a local star, we can do that. If we're going to promote him as the next coming of a UFC fighter, like his teammate Manny Bermudez, we're going to promote him a lot differently. So I think now that at 9-2, I don't think it was ever in his sight line, but as it's becoming more and real as he's at 9-2. You know, you could get a win here. He's 10-2. He might be on the contender this fall. You know, we'll see how it plays out. I think he has to pass this test though, because, you know, he started off, I think 6-0 as a pro, and he was undefeated as an amateur to it. Remember, then he lost to Darius Estelle. Then he lost to Peter Barrett. He had 2 losses, and so it kind of reset his clock. You know, okay, I was 6-0. I was beating all the guys I should have. When I fight guys that are kind of the next level up, I lost those 2. Let me reset. What do I need to work on? And he gave him a glimpse in what he had to work on, and let's see what he's done with that now. And that's why I like this test for him.
Yeah, that's an interesting matchup right there. You did mention Hillary Rose before, so let's talk about that fight with Gabby Golfin. Hillary Rose, someone that we saw in Contender Series as well. She's got a very well-rounded arsenal to her game. So, and I know she wants to get back in the winning track and get another run maybe at Contender Series or into the UFC. So, stylistically, what kind of a fight are you expecting Gabby to try to bring to Hillary on fight night?
Man, I mean, Gabby, like, she fought Kylie O'Hearn, and not too many. Kylie O'Hearn is a scary girl. You know, I've talked to fighters who train with her, and they're like, dude, she hits like a guy, like, you know, she hits like a truck. And Gabrielle stood there and withstood all the strikes and continually threw back and came forward and pushed the pressure. You know, so that tells me Gabby is one hell of a tough girl. And, you know, Hillary is similar to Kylie, that she loves striking. Hillary bows, elbows, you know, Rose, and you know, she loves striking. She's definitely slick on the ground, but if she looks to stand in this fight with Gabby, you know, Gabby's shown that she's not going to go away. So now, where do we go? You know, there was no takedown shot in that first fight with Kylie and Gabby. So if Hillary is having some trouble of putting her away, does she just pepper her the whole night, or does she maybe try to get it where she thinks she might have an advantage on the ground? But we didn't see what Gabby had on the ground. She stopped the takedown. You know, does she have comparable ground? I know she trains at Ultimate MMA. You know, she trains at a few other gyms. So, like, she definitely works that area of her game. So it's an unknown to me. But I'm a huge fan of Gabby after her fight last time with Kylie. I was always a fan of Hillary Rose, though she hasn't fought for us as a pro. She always fought for us as an amateur. She was our first ever female commentator. She actually cornered me at the gym at Lozon's when I was dropping off tickets 2 events ago. And she's like, you got 2 female fights on this card. I want to be the first female commentator. What do I got to do to make it happen? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you no. You're in. And she commentated that Gabriella Golfin versus Kylie O'Hearn fight. With no knowledge that maybe one day she'd fight her. And here we are 2 events later, and they're getting at it.
All right, another exciting fight you don't want to miss. Now, some amateur title fights on the line. I want to start with Tyler Smythe and Joe Pourier. I don't know a whole lot about Joe, so tell me a little bit more about him as a fighter and what he could bring to the table against a guy who we know in Tyler is really slick on the ground.
Yeah, man, and the butter knife Smythe. But Joe Pourier, he has t-shirts coming out, the world's largest flyweight. This kid is it's so funny. Like, people will see his record. He's 3-1. Even back when he was 1-0, and people like, yeah, this guy's massive. Like, there's no way this kid's a flyweight. And I'm like, yeah, he is. Like, he's never fought above flyweight. He doesn't cut a ton of weight. Like, I've seen him at weigh-ins. Like, but he just has like a grand stature about him. He's very tall for the weight class. I don't know. Can you say very tall for a weight class? Very tall in 5'8", 5'9" in the same sentence? I don't know, but you know, he's very tall for the weight class. You know, and he's solid, and he's you know, he's got a great stat, broad shoulders, and you know, a lot of people are scared of the size. He's putting somebody unconscious in his first fight with a standing guillotine, like a la like John Jones and Lyoto Machida, where he just chokes him out and then drops the guy as he's unconscious in a standing guillotine. He's got power in his hands. So this guy is his only loss was to Nate Russell. And if you know Nate Russell's been fighting amateur for 10 years now. He's been around the block for a long time. I think he has like 15 amateur fights. That was the only fight that Joe lost. But yeah, man, this fight is going to be amazing. You know, Tyler, I don't have to pump him out. This guy is a grinder. He fought for us at MMA. He took a short notice Muay Thai fight with us just because the kid likes to fight. Those are the type of guys we want here at Cage Titans. Like, and I don't care where you're from. He could be up from Maine. He could sell 0 tickets down here in New England, in Plymouth, Mass. If you think you are one of the best amateurs in New England, you fight for one of our belts, because this isn't a popularity contest for us with our amateur titles. We want the very best in the region to come through our organization and fight for those titles. So I'm super stoked for Tyler to come back down here. And, obviously Joe Pourier has been around Cage Titans, always fight with Cage Titans, but this is a banger. I mean, Evolution Athletics, every time they come down here from Maine, they're coming to win, and more often than not, they are winning. I don't think they've ever lost in our cage. They're a school to watch out for down here. Not many people know about them because they're up in Maine, but as they keep fighting for Cage Titans, people are like, oh shit, yeah, I don't think I want to take a fight with that school.
Yeah, that's a school on the rise, no doubt. Now the amateur heavyweight title is on the line too. Hassan Graham and Jack Burke. Is someone going to sleep in this one?
Have you seen Hassan Graham fight? This kid's former college football player, big guy. This is not like a fat heavyweight that should be a middleweight but just carries a bare belly. This kid cracks. He is huge for the weight. Super athletic as well. Jack Burke trains at Jackson Wink. He's actually from New Hampshire. But he trains at Jackson Wink, and he asked to fight, and I was just like, listen, heavyweights are very much like female fights. There's not a deep pool, so when you get one, you grab onto them and you're like, all right, I'm not letting you go. So Jack answered the call, and if he's training at Jackson Wink and he's in a management deal with those guys, they're not just putting their stamp on anybody. So Jack's ready to come, and he's going to bring it, and this fight's going to be another one that, don't blink, as the cliche says.
And so did I see Colin Robinson? Is he fighting for a title as well?
Yeah, so Colin Robinson, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's out of Team Link, Worcester. He just went overseas and competed in a tournament over there. But he was originally scheduled to fight Jidafer Ojukwu for a middleweight MMA title. And last show, Colin had to pull out with COVID. Then this show, Jidafer had to pull out. So it was like they kept swapping, and Colin's healthy. So Lamont Payne came across my desk, who's a no boundary Muay Thai champion. And, Colin being out of Team Link Worcester, I was like, all right, well, you're out of a Muay Thai gym. Like, I don't want to take the title opportunity because, like, it just seems like the Jidafer fight just keeps passing. They've each exchanged pullouts. If you still want to fight for a title because you're preparing for 5 rounds, like, I got this guy, Lamont Payne, who coincidentally won his Muay Thai title at No Boundary by beating Jidafer in a Muay Thai title fight. So it's kind of like a fun little, circle or trio. And what better way to award our first Muay Thai amateur title than these two guys? So that should be another great one for the fans.
It really is a fantastic card, top to bottom. Again, July the 2nd, Cage Titans 54. Michael, it's been far too long since we've done this, my friend. We got to do this again before Cage Titans 55. And I do promise I'll be at the event in October. I believe it's the 29th. Before I do let you go, I want to give you the floor. Tell people where to go, where they can buy tickets, and anything else that you want to plug. The floor is yours.
All right, perfect. Well, as always, I say this all the time. If you're going to buy tickets to the show, hit up your favorite fighter on the card and make sure you purchase tickets through one of those fighters. This is additional income that these guys get from a percentage of their ticket sales. And as much as I'd love to say, go buy it from the website, that just cuts out the fighters into the percentage. So, if you can and you have access to a fighter, go hit up one of those fighters. It would go a long way for those guys. So hit up any of those fighters and grab your tickets. As always, you can obviously get it off the website, but if you have access to the fighters, definitely hit the fighters up for tickets. And for those people who don't know, the pros obviously get paid, but amateurs are doing this for the love of the sport to progress their career. They don't get paid, not because I don't want to pay them, but it's against the law to pay them. So this little bit of ticket percentage money goes a long way with those guys. So definitely hit up your favorite fighter or any fighter on the card for that matter to get your tickets. Besides that, as always, follow us on all our social media. We're super active everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook, all the socials at Cage Titans across the board to stay up to date on our entire fight card. And if you can't make it, and some of your main fans that are watching these guys down here, we do on CageTitansFC.com. There's a live stream. And just like tickets, we give a fighter a percentage of all their sales. So in the promo code, just put your favorite fighter's name, and they get 20% of all sales for whatever they sell. A big part of Cage Signs is we're all in this together. So we want to make sure that these fighters have every little avenue to get a little bit of revenue for themselves. So any bit helps. So if you're paying for tickets, hit up your favorite fighter. If you're going to buy the pay-per-view and watch the stream at home, make sure you put your favorite fighter's name in there so they